Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Slavie, where we make cards and other paper crafts. In today's card video, we are going to be making this adorable special delivery waving pull tab slimline card. You have seen me use both the special delivery and box add-on along with the waving pull tab, but I thought it would be fun to combine it with some other oldie but goodie stamp sets and do it in a slimline version. So I'm using the scalloped slimline with hearts die to create this border frame thing. And instead of using the hearts, I used the small slimline with flaps from last year's releases to cut out the panel on the interior. And then I used my wavy hillside borders to cut my sky and my various ground grassy pieces. I used broken china to ink blend the frame, tumbled glass to ink blend my sky, and now I'm using twisted citron and mowed lawn to ink blend the grassy hillsides. Before we get into the coloring, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you're new here so that you don't miss any new notifications of videos. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you are getting value out of this video so far, please hit the like button so that YouTube knows I'm doing something right. All right, back to the card. So I'm using E30s and E10s to color my owl, which is a pretty normal combination for me, but I realized that I do have to branch out a little bit because I think this is the third time I've used the same color combination, and it's getting to be a little much. Okay, I do want to draw attention to the color combination that I use for the beak and the feet. It's Y06 or 8, I'm not sure. It's in the description below, and Y19 as well as on the screen. My screen is tiny, I cannot see. I use the same color combination for my sun because I don't like a bright yellow sun. I just find that it's a little bit, is bland the right word? When you see it in a backdrop. Same with to compare it to Distress Ink colors. If you are using squeezed lemonade versus mustard seed, I prefer the mustard seed. I just think it's more vibrant, I guess, for a sun. I then did the clouds and I used B000 with a colorless blender to blend those out. And then I did my E10s for my tree stumps. And then I used YG06 and G14 to make the canopies of my trees. I decided to go with a new blend for me for these little succulent plants that are going to hang out by some of the buildings that I've collected for my card. Just to have a little bit of interest, and I used that beautiful maroon color, which was a new combination for me as well. I do want to make a note that the little pieces for the town do come from 3 different stamp sets. It's Happy Village, Village Shops, and Village Heroes. And I actually used the colors of the accessories that came with the special delivery, and then like the fire hydrant and that kind of stuff, to determine the colors that I was going to use with my my buildings, because this was already going to be a very busy card visually, and I wanted to repeat as many colors as possible so that it didn't get overwhelming to the eye. So I did end up basically recycling the same COPICs that I was using initially to tie the whole card in together. For my boxes, I'm using the E30s for the tape and the labels, and then the E10s for the remaining boxes. And the idea behind this card is that the little owl is delivering boxes to all the little residents of this tiny town. Now, the tiny boxes, the only other thing that they need, if you look closely, there is an up arrow, and I did that in the red, the same red that I did the fire hydrant in. And then C7, C9 is my go-to quote black unquote color, so I use that for the wheels. I reused the B000 with the colorless blender to do all of my windows, and I used a flicking motion. And if you look here in the top right hand corner, I've linked a video that I've done previously where you can see the technique a little bit better. It's from my holiday card series that I did last year. Okay, here I am again recycling that yellow. I knew I wanted to use it in a couple different places, and then I just rounded everything out with the red here. I love this little car, especially when it's colored red. I don't know what it is, but it is just so cute. And then I also use the red for the different canopies on these 3 different buildings. So 2 of them have the awning, and then one of them with the awning has also the canopy part at the top. Then I used C00 and colorless blender to blend out the white parts. And I didn't go with a darker cool gray because as much as I love the contrast, I didn't want it to get lost in how tiny these images are. For the buildings themselves, when I colored them, I did start on the outside. So around all the edges, I went around with the dark, and then I pulled in that color with the lighter color. I did the same thing for the ones with the canopy above, just accentuating the scalloped edge. For the doors, I went around the outside, I think just on either side, and then I blended to the interior. And I did the same thing with the flat roofs here. For all of the pieces where I was doing this technique, I always start with my darker color on the edge. I go over the darker color with a lighter color, and then I use the lighter color to blend it out the rest of the way, just so that there's enough ink there to allow for a proper blend. Because these images are so tiny, you don't need to go super hard with it, but that is what I do. I find that it blends nicely even in these tiny images. And then I used my browns, specifically the E10s, to do the scalloped roof, which to me looks like it would be old school wood roof. Then there's a bunch of trim that I also did with the brown wood color, the trim on the windows, and then I used the E30s to finish it off with the coffee cup and the bread in the bakery window. Then I realized I forgot to color these, so broken china for the piece on the left, and tumbled glass, or sorry, the other way around. Tumbled glass for the piece on the left and broken china for the arrow piece. Now to the assembly. I used a piece of washi tape to hold down my thumb notch die, and I centered it on into the center of the card. And then I used the stencil looking piece to align the piece that cuts the notches for the wings. And that piece is included in the special delivery die set. It's not included in the waving pull tab die, so you do need both to complete this card. I then went ahead and adhered my frame to my card, and you can see that my logo is on the front of the card, and that's because I got that ink smudge on the front. So I actually just stamped it along the back so I didn't have to get a new card base. Gotta get crafty, people. Alright, then I used my bread and I attached my wings to my flap and threaded it through the pull tabs. Gave it a good whirl because we gotta make sure that the pull tabs work. And then I attached that piece and the arrow, aligned everything up in the back so that I could attach the stabilizer piece. And I do take a moment to line it up properly. And I'm using liquid glue to adhere all of this just because it is my preferred form of glue. I find that it sticks really well, it dries nicely, and it doesn't come apart, which is a problem that I've experienced in the past with some tape runners, is that and even with score tape, if I'm being totally honest, I just find that it's not as strong as I would like it to be, so liquid glue has not let me down yet. I then went ahead and prepped my owl, and then I attached the background pieces to my card base. And I made sure to avoid the piece that moves up and down. So I probably didn't have to not put anything in the inside of this particular piece, but I just put a little bit of foam tape on the bottom. And with the next piece, I just wanted to mention foam tape is really, really great in that you can take the backing off like this, and then you can bend it to your will. So if you've got a weird shape like I did here, it kind of conforms itself to that shape, which it's just really great and versatile in that sense. Okay, so I finished attaching that, and then I prepped the rest of my items before I started adhering everything to the card, attaching the little labels to the box, and then attaching the box to the strings that then attached to the owl. In the card that I released, I think it's a couple weeks ago, I'll link it here. I did not do this part here when I initially put the card together. I do recommend you do it in this order, attaching the strings to the owl before you attach it to the card. It just makes it really much easier to tuck it in and attach so that it looks cohesive, and then you don't have to trim away on the strings or anything like that. I then laid out where all of my pieces were going to go on the card, and I started attaching everything using a combination of my glue and foam squares. Now I have two different sizes, I guess, of foam squares. I have the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch, but I also have the regular version and the thin version. And the regular version is the same as that 3M foam tape that I used on the back. And the thin version is about half of that. So I think the difference is about 1 millimeter to 1/2 millimeter. And the way that I attached all of these is I was kind of trying to create perspective. So for example, with the clouds, the bigger clouds were popped up while the smaller clouds were just taped down, or not taped down, glued down. And with the images like the church and the cafe, they were farther back, so they were glued directly onto the page, whereas the ones in front of them had the thin foam squares, and then the images right at the front had the regular size foam squares to create that dimension that I love and adore. All right, so a gentle reminder, if you have not had a chance yet, please hit the like button if you got value out of today's card video. This is the finished card video, and before you take off, make sure you check out some of the videos that I've linked here at the end. And I want to thank you again so much for stopping by. This is Slavie for Crafting with Slavie. Bye!